Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Endeavour, watching the stars through the big window. He had been in space for 15 years, but today felt different. Today, humanity would meet aliens for the first time. "Captain, we have 3 large ships coming toward us," said Officer Ben Parker at the control panel. His voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. "They're bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake nodded and looked at the screen. 3 massive ships hung in space like giant metal cities. They were beautiful and scary at the same time. Each one was at least 10 times bigger than the Endeavour. "Open a channel," Jake said. "Let's say hello." The screen flickered and showed a face that was almost human, but not quite. The alien had pale blue skin and large golden eyes. When it spoke, the words came through their translation computer. "Greetings, young ones from the 3rd planet. I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. We welcome you to the galaxy." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We're honored to meet you." The alien's eyes seemed to study Jake carefully. "You have achieved faster travel between stars much sooner than we expected. This is ... unusual for such a young world." Dr. Lisa Grant, who was standing next to Jake, raised her eyebrows. She was Earth's best expert on life from other planets, even though she had never seen any real aliens before today. "Young world?" she asked quietly. Commander Veltar continued talking. "We offer your people membership in our confederation. Many worlds work together for peace and growth. But first, we must learn about your history and your planet." "We'd be happy to share information," Jake said. But something felt wrong. The alien seemed nervous, like he was hiding something. Over the next few hours, the aliens asked many questions. About Earth. They wanted to know how long humans had lived on the planet. They asked about human technology and how fast it had grown. Most strange of all, they asked about old ruins and ancient buildings. Dr. Lisa Grant noticed something odd about the alien devices. Their tools and computers looked familiar somehow. She had seen similar shapes and symbols in old cave paintings and ancient carvings back on Earth. "Captain," she whispered to Jake during a break in the talks, "their technology looks like things I've seen in very old human art. Art from thousands of years ago." Jake frowned. "That's impossible. Humans only learned to fly 150 years ago." "I know," Lisa said. "But look at that device on the alien's belt. The symbols on it match carvings I found in a cave in Egypt last year." Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Blake was watching the alien ships through their scanners. Ryan was in charge of keeping the Endeavour safe, and he always looked for danger. What he saw made him worried. "Captain," Ryan said, "their ships are pointing weapons at us, but they're also running deep scans of our ship. They're looking for something specific." "What kind of something?" Jake asked. "I don't know. But they keep scanning the section where we store our historical records and artifacts." On the alien ship, Commander Veltar was talking to his team in private. The humans couldn't hear what they were saying, but their faces looked worried. "Sir," one of the aliens said, "the scans show traces of old technology in their ship. How is this possible?" "The records say this world was empty when the ancients disappeared." Veltar's golden eyes grew wide. "Keep scanning. We must know if they are truly from this world, or if they are something else." Back on Earth, strange things were happening. Dr. Amy Walsh was working at a dig site on Mars. Humans had been living on Mars for 50 years, but they had always thought the red planet was empty before they arrived. Today, her team found something. That changed everything. "Dr. Walsh," shouted her assistant, Tony Chun, "you need to see this." Amy rushed over to where Tony was digging. In the red dirt of Mars, they had found a piece of metal. It was clearly made by intelligent beings, but it was buried under layers of rock that were millions of years old. This can't be right, Amy said. Run the age tests again. An hour later, Tony came back with the results. His face was pale. Dr. Walsh, this metal is over 2 million years old. But look at these markings on it. Amy looked at the strange symbols carved into the metal. They looked almost like human writing, but different, older somehow. Send this to Earth right away, she said, and keep digging. I think we're going to find more. On the Endeavor, the talks with the aliens continued. The Zephyrians wanted to give humans maps of the galaxy and information about other alien races. But they also wanted something in return. We would like to study your historical sites, Commander Veltar said. Places where your ancestors lived long ago. This will help us understand your people better. Dr. Lisa Grant felt excited. We'd love to show you our ancient sites. We have pyramids, stone circles, and cave paintings that are thousands of years old. When she said this, several aliens looked at each other with worry in their golden eyes. Thousands of years? Veltar asked, Are you certain they are not older? Well, Lisa said, some of our oldest sites might be 10 or 15,000 years old. But humans have only been smart enough to build cities for about 12,000 years. The aliens became very quiet. Veltar whispered something to his team in their own language. Is something wrong? Jake asked. No, nothing wrong, Veltar said quickly. We are simply surprised by your rapid development. Most species take much longer to reach the stars. But Ryan Blake noticed that the alien ships had moved into a different formation. They were surrounding the Endeavor now, not in a threatening way, but like they were protecting something valuable. Captain, Ryan whispered, I think they're more interested in us than they're letting on. Their behavior doesn't match their words. As the day went on, more strange news came from Earth and Mars. Archaeological teams were finding artifacts that seemed to be much older than human civilization. And all of these artifacts had symbols and designs that looked similar to alien technology. Dr. Lisa Grant was starting to put pieces together in her mind. The similarities between alien devices and ancient human art. The aliens' nervousness about Earth's history. The old artifacts that seemed too advanced for primitive humans to make. Captain, she said to Jake quietly, I think we need to ask some harder questions. Something about our history isn't what we thought it was. Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. The aliens treated Earth like it was special, but also like it was dangerous. They wanted to study human history, but they seemed afraid of what they might find. As night fell on the Endeavor, Jake looked out at the alien ships again. Tomorrow, they would go to Earth together. The aliens wanted to see humanity's ancient sites. But Jake had a feeling that what they found there would change everything humans thought they knew about themselves. The galaxy was much older and stranger than anyone had imagined. And somehow, Earth was at the center of it all. Dr. Amy Walsh wiped the red dust from her hands as she stared at the hole her team had dug in the Martian ground. 6 months had passed since the aliens arrived at Earth, and every day brought new surprises that made less and less sense. Tony, bring the scanner over here, she called to her assistant. The metal object they had found yesterday was just the beginning. Now they had uncovered what looked like part of a building buried deep under millions of years of Martian soil. Tony Chun ran over with the equipment, his breathing mask fogging up in his excitement. Dr. Walsh, the age readings are still showing the same impossible numbers. This structure is at least 3 million years old. Amy shook her head. That's older than smart humans have existed anywhere. But look at these walls. See how they're built? This isn't random. Someone designed this. Standing nearby, Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian aliens watched the humans work. He had insisted on joining the dig team, saying he wanted to help. But Amy noticed he looked more worried than helpful. Every time they found something new, his golden eyes would grow wide, and he would whisper into his communication device. "Commander Veltar," Amy said, "your people have been exploring space for thousands of years. Have you ever seen buildings like this before?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. "We have seen similar structures, but they were built by a very ancient race that disappeared long ago. We call them the First Ones." "The First Ones?" Tony asked. "What happened to them?" "No one knows," Veltar said. "They vanished before any of our current civilizations began. Some say they spread life across the galaxy, then simply left." Amy felt a chill run down her back. Left to where? Veltar didn't answer. Instead, he pointed at the symbols carved into the ancient wall. "These markings, do they look familiar to your people?" Amy studied the symbols closely. They were like nothing in any human language she knew, but something about them felt right. Like she should be able to read them if she just looked hard enough. "I've never seen these exact symbols," she said, "but the style reminds me of very old human cave paintings." When she said this, Veltar made a sound that might have been fear or surprise. He quickly moved away from the wall and spoke rapidly into his communication device in the Zephyrian language. On Earth, Professor Kate Miller was having her own strange discoveries. She led the human team working with alien archaeologists at sites around the world. Today, they were deep underground beneath the famous pyramids in Egypt. "This chamber shouldn't exist," Kate said to her team. "According to every map we have, there's nothing but solid rock here." But the chamber was real. It was huge and filled with devices that hummed quietly with power, even after being buried for thousands of years. The walls were covered with star maps that showed perfect details of planets and systems across the galaxy. Colonel Pete Harris, who was in charge of security for the dig, studied one of the star maps with growing amazement. "Professor, this map shows the exact location of the Zephyrian homeworld. But humans aren't supposed to know where that is." Kate looked at the map Pete was pointing to. It showed not just the Zephyrian system, but dozens of other star systems with detailed notes about which ones had life and which ones were empty. "This map has to be at least 10,000 years old," she said. "But it shows star positions as they are right now, not as they were 10,000 years ago. Whoever made this understood how stars move over time." The alien members of their team had become very quiet. Kate noticed they were all staring at one particular star map with expressions she couldn't read. "Is something wrong?" she asked the alien team leader, a Zephyrian named Kothvel. "These maps," Kothvel said slowly, "they show things that only the First Ones should have known. Stars that were discovered by our people only a few hundred years ago are marked here with perfect accuracy." Kate felt her heart beating faster. Who were the First Ones exactly? Kothval looked at his fellow aliens before answering. They were the first intelligent race to travel between stars. They spread life to empty worlds and taught younger races how to survive. But they disappeared long before any of our current civilizations reached space. "How long ago?" Kate asked. "At least 5 million years," Kothvel said. "Maybe more," Colonel Pete Harris frowned. "But humans have only existed for a few 100,000 years, and we've only had civilization for about 12,000 years." The aliens exchanged worried looks. One of them, a tall being with purple skin named Vexor, spoke up. "Perhaps your people's history is not as simple as you believe." That evening, Kate called Dr. Amy Walsh on Mars to share what they had found. The video call showed Amy standing in front of ancient ruins that looked remarkably similar to the chamber under the pyramids. "Kate, we're finding the same star maps here on Mars," Amy said, "but there's something else. We found a device that's still working after millions of years. When we activated it, it showed us images." "What kind of images?" Kate asked. Pictures of Earth, but not the Earth we know. This Earth had huge cities and ships flying through the sky. And Kate, the people in the images looked human. Kate felt the world spinning around her. That's impossible. Humans couldn't have built cities millions of years ago. I know it's impossible, Amy said, but the evidence is right here, and there's more. We found genetic material in the ruins. When we tested it, it matched human DNA perfectly. On both Earth and Mars, the alien. Team members were becoming more and more nervous. They held private meetings and spoke in whispers. When humans asked them direct questions, they gave vague answers or changed the subject. Dr. Lisa Grant, who had returned to Earth after the initial contact, was studying samples from both dig sites. She was a biologist, not an archaeologist. But what she found in the genetic material made her hands shake. This can't be right, she said to herself, as she looked at the test results for the third time. The DNA from the ancient ruins wasn't just similar to human DNA. It was identical in ways that should be impossible. She called Captain Jake Morrison, who was still in space with the alien fleet. Jake, we have a problem. The genetic material from the ruins doesn't just match human DNA. It's like it's the source of human DNA. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean, it looks like modern human genetics came from this ancient material, not the other way around. Like humans today are descendants of whoever built these ruins millions of years ago. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Lisa, that would mean humans were already an advanced space-traveling race millions of years before we supposedly evolved on Earth. I know how crazy it sounds, Lisa said, but the evidence doesn't lie. And Jake, there's something else. I've been comparing the ancient DNA to genetic samples from our alien guests. And the Zephyrians, the Korthaks, all of them. They all have traces of the same ancient DNA in their genetics. It's like they're all related to the same source. That night, Commander Veltar received an urgent message from the Zephyrian High Command. The message was short but terrifying. Confirm immediately if the humans are the returning first ones. If so, implement Protocol 7. Veltar knew what Protocol 7 meant. It was the plan they had hoped they would never need to use. The plan for what to do if the first ones ever came back, because the Zephyrians and all the other races in the galaxy knew something that humans had forgotten. The first ones didn't just disappear. They left because something terrible was coming. Something so dangerous that the most advanced race in the galaxy chose to hide rather than fight it. And if the humans really were the first ones returning, it meant that the terrible thing they had been hiding from was coming back to as Veltar looked out at the stars. He wondered if the galaxy was ready for what was coming. And he wondered if the humans, who had forgotten their own history, would remember in time to save everyone. The truth was bigger and more frightening than anyone had imagined. And tomorrow, they would dig deeper and find even more impossible answers to questions no one had thought to ask. Lieutenant Commander Sam Torres stood on the bridge of the Confederate research ship Harmony, staring at the massive structure floating in space ahead of them. The space station was bigger than any human city, but it was dark and empty. It had been drifting in neutral space for millions of years. Sam, are you seeing this? Asked engineer Beth Palmer as she studied her scanner readings. This station matches the architecture we found on Mars exactly. Same building style, same materials, even the same symbols. Sam nodded, but his attention was on the alien crew members. The Zephyrian scientist Kethvar and his team had become very quiet since they first saw the station. Their golden eyes were wide with what looked like fear. Kethvar, Sam said, have your people seen stations like this before? The Zephyrian scientist hesitated before answering. We have stories, old legends about great structures built by the first ones. But we thought they were just myths. "Well, this one is real," said Dr. Alex Morgan, the mission's historian. He was a young man who specialized in ancient civilizations, though he had never expected to study anything this old. And if the dating is correct, it's older than any known civilization in the galaxy. The Harmony slowly approached the station. As they got closer, they could see that it was not completely dead. Faint lights flickered in some sections, and energy readings showed that parts of the station still had power. "How is that possible?" asked pilot Jenny Lee. "Nothing can run for millions of years without maintenance. First one's technology," Kethver whispered. "The legends say their machines could repair themselves and run forever." Sam made the decision to dock with the station. "We're going aboard. I want answers, and this place might have them." The team that went inside included Sam, Beth, Alex, and 3 aliens including Kethver. They wore spacesuits because they didn't know if the station had air, but their scanners showed that the atmosphere was actually breathable. "That's impossible," Beth said, checking her readings again. "The air in here is fresh, like it was made yesterday." The corridors of the station were huge, clearly built for beings much larger than humans or current aliens. But as they walked deeper inside, Sam noticed something strange. "Look at these control panels," he said, pointing to devices along the walls. "They're built for hands like ours, human hands." Dr. Alex Morgan studied the symbols and writing on the walls. "I've been comparing these markings to every ancient human language I know. There are similarities, but it's like looking at the grandfather of all human writing." Kethver and the other aliens were becoming more nervous with each step. "Commander Torres," Kethver said, "perhaps we should return to the ship. This place feels ... wrong." "Wrong how?" Sam asked. "Like we are children playing in our parents' house without permission," Kethver said quietly. They reached the center of the station, where they found a massive chamber filled with holographic displays and computer systems. Everything was still running, casting blue light across the walls. Beth approached one of the computers. "Sam, I think I can activate the main display system." The interface looks similar to human computer designs. "Do it," Sam said. The moment Beth touched the controls, the entire chamber came to life. Holographic images filled the air around them, showing star maps, planetary systems, and what looked like historical records. But what made everyone gasp was the central display. It showed Earth, but not the Earth they knew. This Earth was covered with massive cities, orbital platforms, and ships that looked like moving stars. "This is impossible," Alex said. "These images show Earth with technology more advanced than anything we have today. But the time stamps say they're millions of years old." A new hologram appeared, showing a figure that looked completely human. The figure began speaking in a language that their translation computers couldn't understand at first. But slowly the words became clear. "If you are seeing this recording," the figure said, "then you have returned to reclaim what was lost. The great diaspora is complete, and the children have grown strong. The time of hiding is over." Sam felt chills run down his spine. "Who are you?" he asked the hologram, even though he knew it couldn't hear him. As if answering his question, the hologram continued. "We are the ancients, the first walkers, the seeders of life. We are what you call the first ones. And if you are here, if you have found this station, then you are our children returning home." Kethver made a sound that was part fear and part amazement. The first ones were human. The hologram showed more images. Fleets of human ships traveling between stars. Humans working on empty planets, creating oceans and atmospheres. Humans teaching primitive alien species how to use tools and build cities. "We spread life across the galaxy," the hologram continued. "We found empty worlds and made them bloom. We discovered primitive species and helped them grow wise. We built a great civilization that touched every corner of the galaxy. Dr. Alex Morgan was frantically taking notes. This changes everything we know about galactic history. Humans weren't newcomers to space. We were the first. But what happened? Beth asked. If humans built all this, where did they go? The hologram's expression became sad. The Devourers came from beyond our galaxy. They consume all life, all civilization, leaving only empty worlds behind. We fought them for 1,000 years, but they were too strong. New images showed massive battles in space. Human fleets fighting against dark ships that seemed to absorb light itself. Planets being drained of all life, becoming gray and dead. We could not defeat them, the hologram said. So we made the hardest choice. We scattered our children across the galaxy and hid the truth of our existence. We returned to our origin world and used ancient technology to make ourselves forget who we were. Sam's mouth fell open. They made themselves forget? Humans chose to lose their own history? The Devourers track advanced civilizations by their technology and knowledge, the hologram explained. By becoming primitive again, by forgetting our science and our power, we became invisible to them. We planned to wait until the galaxy was strong enough to fight back. Cuthbert was shaking now. The stories my grandmother told me, she said the first ones would return when the galaxy faced its greatest danger. But I thought they were just stories. The hologram showed a final image, Earth in the present day, with human ships beginning to explore space again. The time of hiding is over. Human genetics carry the memory of what we once were. As you spread to the stars again, that memory will awaken. You will remember your true nature. But why now? Alex asked. Why are we remembering now? The hologram's expression became grave. Because the Devourers are returning. Our scouts detected their approach centuries ago. That is why we allowed ourselves to begin remembering. The galaxy will need the first ones to survive what is coming. The recording continued showing technical information about ancient human technology, locations of hidden bases, and genetic codes that would unlock dormant human abilities. Beth was studying the technical data with amazement. Sam, according to this, every human alive today has dormant genetic sequences that can be activated. We're not just descendants of the first ones. We are the first ones, just sleeping. And all of us? Sam asked, gesturing to the aliens. What about the other species in the galaxy? Cuthbert answered in a whisper. We are your children. Created. A human terraforming and genetic engineering millions of years ago. The Zephyrians, the Korthax, all the major species. We evolved from worlds and genetic templates the humans provided. The hologram gave one final message. To our children who may be watching, do not fear us. We are not returning as conquerors. We are awakening as protectors. The galaxy you have built together is more beautiful than anything we achieved alone. Together, we might be strong enough to face the darkness that comes. As the recording ended, the chamber fell silent except for the humming of ancient machines. Sam looked around at his mixed crew of humans and aliens, seeing them all in a completely new way. Cuthbert, Sam said, how do your people feel about learning that humans are your ancestors? The Zephyrian scientist was quiet for a long moment. Honored, he said finally, and terrified. Because if the first ones are awakening, it means the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known is coming back. Sam nodded and looked out through the station's windows at the stars. Somewhere out there, an enemy that had once driven the most powerful civilization in the galaxy into hiding was returning. And humanity, whether they remembered their past or not, would have to face it again. But this time, they wouldn't be alone. This time, they had children to protect and allies to fight beside them. The question was whether that would be enough. Ambassador Ellen Price, walked into the massive assembly hall on Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Confederation. The building was designed to hold thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds, but today it felt smaller and more crowded than usual. Every major species in the galaxy had sent representatives to this emergency meeting. Ellen looked around at the faces surrounding her. Zephyrians with their golden eyes, tall Corfex with their blue skin, small Victi with their large heads, and dozens of other species. Just 3 months ago, she had thought of them as aliens. Now she knew they were all family. "The Assembly recognizes Ambassador Price of Earth," announced the speaker, an ancient Corthex named Maldak, who had led the Confederation for over 200 years. Ellen stood and faced the thousands of beings in the hall. "Thank you, Speaker Molduck. I know this emergency session was called because of what we discovered about humanity's past. I'm here to answer any questions you might have." A Zephyrian delegate named Zexron stood up immediately. "Ambassador Price, how do we know? These claims are true? The idea that humans are the legendary first ones seems impossible." Ellen nodded. "I understand your doubt, but the evidence is overwhelming. The genetic tests prove that all major species in this assembly share DNA markers with ancient human genetic material. The technology we found matches perfectly with our oldest artifacts, and the historical records show Earth as the center of galactic civilization millions of years ago." Murmurs filled the hall as species representatives talked among themselves. Ellen could hear fear and confusion in dozens of different languages. General Nick Carter, who had accompanied Ellen to Nexus Prime, stepped forward. He was a tall man, with gray hair, who had spent his life protecting Earth. Now he had to help protect the entire galaxy. "If I may speak," Nick said, "the real question isn't whether humans are the first ones. The evidence proves that. The question is what we do with this information." A Vecti delegate with a high, squeaky voice called out, "What we do? We have learned that humans created us all. Should we bow down to our makers? No," Ellen said firmly. "That's not what any human wants. We may be your ancestors, but you've built your own civilizations. You've grown beyond anything we achieved in the past. We don't want to rule you. We want to work with you." Dr. Grace Lee, Earth's leading genetic scientist, approached the speaking platform. She had been studying human DNA for the past 3 months, making discoveries that amazed and frightened her. "If I may explain what we've learned about human genetics," Grace said, "every human alive today carries what we're calling dormant sequences in their DNA. These are genetic codes that have been turned off for millions of years." "Turned off by whom?" asked a Corthax representative. "By ancient humans themselves," Grace explained. "When they chose to forget their advanced civilization, they also locked away their enhanced abilities. But these abilities are starting to awaken again." Speaker Moldak leaned forward in his chair. "What kind of abilities?" Grace took a deep breath. "Enhanced intelligence, perfect memory, advanced spatial reasoning, and an intuitive understanding of technology. Some humans are beginning to show these traits naturally. We believe that as humanity spreads into space again, more of these abilities will activate." The hall erupted in worried conversations. Ellen could see fear on many faces. The idea of humans becoming superintelligent was clearly troubling to some species. A tall Zephyrian commander named Torval stood up. "And what happens when humans remember how to build the weapons that once fought the Devourers? What if you decide that your children have been poor caretakers of the galaxy?" Ellen felt anger rise in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Commander Torval, humans have had nuclear weapons for over a century. We could have destroyed ourselves or conquered other worlds when we first met you, but we didn't. We asked for friendship instead." General Nick Carter nodded. "Earth's military Policies haven't changed since we learned about our past. We're still committed to peace and cooperation. But Dr. Grace Lee had more troubling news to share. There's something else the Assembly needs to know. We've been testing the dormant genetic sequences, trying to understand what they do. Some of them aren't just about intelligence or memory. What do you mean? Speaker Moldock asked. Some of the sequences appear to be designed for survival in extreme situations. Enhanced healing, resistance to radiation, ability to survive in space for short periods without protection. It's like ancient humans were preparing their descendants for a great war. The hall became very quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. The Devourers, whispered a Vecti delegate. Ellen nodded grimly. The historical records we found suggest that the Devourers aren't just coming back. They're already on their way. Ancient human monitoring stations at the edge of the galaxy detected their approach several years ago. Commander Torval's golden eyes grew wide. Several years ago? Why weren't we told? Because the monitoring stations are automatic, Grace explained. Ancient humans set them up to activate certain genetic sequences when the Devourers returned. That's why human abilities are awakening now. It's a biological alarm system. A new voice spoke from the back of the hall. May I address the Assembly? Everyone turned to see an elderly human woman walking toward the speaking platform. Ellen recognized her as Dr. Helen Ross, one of Earth's most respected archaeologists. But something was different about Dr. Ross. She moved with a confidence and grace that seemed unusual. Dr. Ross, Ellen said, I didn't know you were coming. To Nexus Prime. Helen smiled, but her eyes held knowledge that seemed far older than her years. I wasn't planning to come. But 3 days ago, I began to remember things. Things I shouldn't know. The hall fell completely silent. I remember the evacuation of Kepler 452b, Helen continued. I remember the final battle at the Andromeda Gate. I remember the decision to hide and the ceremony where we chose to forget. General Nick Carter stared at her. Helen, that's impossible. Those events happened millions of years ago. Not impossible, Helen said. Just unlikely. The genetic locks that ancient humans placed on their memories weren't perfect. Under extreme stress, when the danger is great enough, some of us can access the old memories. Dr. Grace Lee quickly pulled out a portable genetic scanner. Helen, may I scan you? Helen nodded. Grace ran the scanner, and her face went pale. Her dormant sequences are activating at an incredible rate. She's accessing genetic memories that have been locked away for millions of years. Helen turned to address the Assembly directly. The Devourers consume civilizations by draining their life force. They turn living worlds into empty husks. When they first came to our galaxy, we fought them with everything we had. But they were too strong. How do we fight them now? Asked Speaker Moldock. Together, Helen said. Ancient humans were powerful, but we were alone. Now we have you. Hundreds of species, each with unique abilities and perspectives. The Devourers have never faced a united galaxy before. A young Zephyrian delegate stood up. But if the ancient humans couldn't defeat them, how can we? Helen's eyes glowed with ancient wisdom. Because we're not the same humans who fought them before, and you're not the primitive species we left behind. We've all grown. We've all learned. Together, we might be strong enough to win. Ellen felt hope rising in her chest. What do we need to do? First, Helen said, we need to awaken more humans. The genetic locks are already failing due to the proximity of the Devourers. But we can speed up the process. And second? General, Nick Carter asked. Helen's expression became grim. We need to prepare Earth's defenses. The planet isn't just our home. It's the galaxy's most powerful weapon, designed specifically to fight the Devourers. But it's been sleeping for millions of years. Earth is a weapon? Ellen asked in amazement. The entire solar system, Helen confirmed. Disguised as a natural planetary formation, but actually a massive defense platform. When fully activated, it can protect or destroy anything within several light years. The assembly erupted in shocked conversations. The idea that Earth itself was a weapon built by ancient humans was almost too much to believe. Speaker Moldak called for order. Dr. Ross, how long do we have before the Devourers arrive? Helen closed her eyes, accessing memories that were millions of years old. Based on their last known speed and trajectory, approximately 18 months, maybe less. 18 months. To prepare for an enemy that defeated the most advanced civilization in galactic history, General Nick Carter said quietly. Helen nodded. 18 months to prove that children can be stronger than their parents, and that unity can triumph over overwhelming power. Ellen looked around at the thousands of faces in the assembly hall. Fear was there, but also determination. These beings were learning that they were all family, all children of the same ancient parents, and families protected each other. The real question, Ellen said to the assembly, is whether we face this threat as separate species or as one united galaxy. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Tony Brooks stood in the control room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at screens that showed readings he could barely understand. 3 months had passed since Dr. Helen Ross first accessed her ancient memories, and every day brought new impossible discoveries about what Earth really was. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy buildups in grid sections 12 through 47, reported Captain Maria Santos, who was overseeing the excavation teams worldwide. The planet's defense systems are waking up faster than we expected. Tony nodded grimly. Ever since human genetic memories began awakening, strange things had been happening all over Earth. Ancient machines buried deep underground were starting to hum with power. Ocean currents were shifting in patterns that looked random, but followed mathematical principles that human scientists were only beginning to understand. How many awakened humans do we have now? Tony asked. 17 confirmed, Maria answered. But Dr. Moore thinks there might be hundreds more who are experiencing partial awakening. Memory fragments, enhanced abilities, technological intuition. Dr. Frank Moore was the scientist in charge of safely awakening humans whose genetic locks were failing. It was dangerous work. Not everyone could handle suddenly remembering lives they had lived millions of years ago. Sir, called Lieutenant Bob Hayes from his monitoring station, we're getting a priority signal from the Greenland facility. They say they've found something big. Tony activated the communication link. On the screen appeared Dr. Carol White, the lead archaeologist at the Greenland excavation site. Behind her, Tony could see a massive chamber carved from ice and rock. Admiral Brooks, Carl said, her voice filled with excitement and fear. We've broken through into what appears to be a command center. And sir, it's not empty. What do you mean, not empty? Tony asked. I mean, there are people here. Ancient humans in some kind of sleeping chambers. Thousands of them. And according to our readings, they're still alive. Tony felt his heart skip. A beat. Alive? After millions of years? The chambers are using technology we don't understand, Carol explained. But our awakened humans say these are volunteers from the original human military. Elite soldiers and commanders who chose to sleep until the Devourers returned. Maria Santos leaned forward. Admiral, if we can wake them up, we'll have access to military knowledge from humanity's first war against the Devourers. Tony made the decision quickly. Carol, I'm sending Dr. Moore and a full team to your location. We need to wake them up safely. 2 days later, Dr. Frank Moore stood in the know. Greenland facility looking at rows upon rows of crystalline chambers. Each one contained a human figure floating in some kind of glowing liquid. The technology was so advanced that it made current human science look primitive. "Frank," said his assistant, Dr. Su Chun, "the genetic scanners show these people are essentially identical to modern humans, but their dormant sequences are already fully activated. They went to sleep with all their abilities intact." Frank approached one of the chambers. Inside was a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, though he knew she had to be millions of years old. According to the chamber's display, her name was Admiral Vera Stone. "Let's start with her," Frank said. According to the records, she was one of the military leaders during the final evacuation. The awakening process took 6 hours. Frank and his team worked carefully, following procedures that were somehow appearing in their own awakening memories. Finally, the chamber opened with a soft hiss, and the woman inside opened her eyes. "Admiral." Vera Stone sat up slowly, looking around with eyes that held the wisdom of ages. When she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. "How long?" she asked simply. "About 4 million years," Frank answered. Vera nodded as if this was exactly what she had expected. "And the Devourers? They're coming. Our early warning systems detected them about a year ago." Vera stood up, and Frank was amazed at how naturally she moved. There was no confusion, no disorientation. She had been prepared for this awakening. "How many of us are awake?" she asked. "You're the first of the ancient military," Frank said. "But we have 17 naturally awakened modern humans with partial genetic memories." 17, Vera repeated, thoughtfully. "In the old days, we had millions of fully awakened humans. But 17 might be enough if they're properly trained." Over the next few days, Frank's team awakened 12 more ancient humans. Each one was a specialist: military, commanders, weapons engineers, defense system operators, and strategic planners. They adapted to the modern world with surprising speed, though they were amazed by how much the galaxy had changed. "The children have built something beautiful," Admiral Vera Stone told Tony Brooks when they met for the first time. "Hundreds of species working together in peace. We never achieved anything like this." Tony studied the ancient woman. She looked young, but her eyes held knowledge that was older than human civilization. "Admiral Stone, can we win against the Devourers?" "With what we had before? No," Vera said honestly. "But we have advantages now that we didn't have then. We have the Galactic Confederation, with species that have abilities we never possessed, and we have Earth's full defense grid." "About that," Tony said, "we're detecting massive energy buildups all over the planet, but we don't understand what they're for." Vera smiled. "Earth isn't just our home, Admiral Brooks. It's the galaxy's ultimate fortress. Every mountain, every ocean, every continent has been engineered as part of a planetary defense system." She led Tony to a massive display screen that showed a 3-dimensional map of Earth. The mountain ranges are actually energy collectors and amplifiers. The ocean currents are coolant systems for massive weapons batteries. Even the moon has been modified to serve as a command and control platform. "The moon?" Tony stared at the display. "Our moon is artificial?" "Partially," Vera explained. "We moved it into position and added the necessary equipment. When fully activated, the Earth-Moon system becomes a weapons platform capable of destroying entire fleets." Captain Maria Santos had been listening with growing amazement. "How do we activate these systems?" "That's where the awakened humans come in," Vera said. "The defense grid responds to human consciousness, but only consciousness that has access to the original genetic templates. As more humans awaken, more of the system comes online." Dr. Frank Moore approached with urgent news. "Admiral Stone, we've awakened the military engineer, Commander Carl Peterson. He says the defense grid is missing something crucial." "What?" Tony asked. Carl Peterson was a tall man with intense green eyes. He had been in charge of Earth's weapons systems during the Ancient War. "The planetary shield generators," he said. "We need massive amounts of processed metal to complete the shield grid." "How much metal?" Tony asked. "About 10 times more than exists in Earth's entire industrial capacity," Carl said grimly. Admiral Vera Stone thought for a moment. "The asteroid belt. We mined it extensively during the original construction, but there should still be enough raw materials. But we don't have the ships or technology to mine asteroids on that scale," Maria pointed out. Carl smiled. "We don't need ships. We have the children." Within days, the plan was in motion. The Galactic Confederation's vast mining fleets, originally designed for peaceful resource extraction, were converted to emergency production. Zephyrian heavy lifters, Korthax precision miners, and Vecti automated systems worked together to strip mine asteroids and process metals faster than had ever been attempted. On Earth, ancient machines buried beneath major cities began rising. To the surface, massive crystalline towers emerged from the ground in precisely calculated locations around the globe. The towers hummed with power, creating energy fields that could be seen from space. Dr. Grace Lee, monitoring the global awakening process, made regular reports to Admiral Brooks. "Tony, we now have 43 awakened humans, and the number is growing daily. But there's something else. The non-awakened humans are showing enhanced abilities too. It's like the awakening of some is triggering genetic improvements in all humans." "What kind of improvements?" Tony asked. "Enhanced reflexes, better problem-solving abilities, improved resistance to stress and fatigue. It's subtle, but measurable. The entire human race is evolving in real time." Admiral Vera Stone was not surprised by this news. Genetic awakening was always designed to spread through the population. Ancient humans understood that fighting the Devourers would require the best from everyone, not just the elite. As Earth's defenses came online, space-based sensors began detecting disturbing readings from the edge of the solar system. The Devourers were closer than expected. "Admiral Stone," Tony said during one of their daily briefings, "our long range sensors show massive gravitational disturbances beyond Pluto. How much time do we have?" Vera studied the sensor readings with experienced eyes. "Based on these patterns, I'd say 6 weeks. Maybe less. 6 weeks?" Maria Santos looked pale. "The defense grid won't be fully operational for at least 3 months. Then we'll have to make do with what we have," Vera said calmly. "Commander Peterson, what percentage of the defense grid is currently active?" Carl Peterson checked his readings. "About 60% of the energy collectors, 40% of the weapons batteries, and only 20% of the shield generators." "That's not enough," Tony said. Fleet Admiral Carl Murphy stood on the bridge of the massive human dreadnought Defiance, watching as thousands of ships from across the galaxy took their positions around Earth. The combined fleet was the largest military force ever assembled, with vessels from every species in the Confederation working together for the first time. "Admiral Murphy," reported Commander Jenny Ward from her position at the sensor station, "the Devourer fleet has just passed Neptune. We're tracking over 10,000 ships, each one larger than our biggest battleships." Carl nodded grimly. They ancient ships that Earth had awakened were powerful beyond anything the current galaxy possessed, but they were vastly outnumbered. "How long until they reach our defensive perimeter?" 6 hours, Jenny answered. On Earth below, Admiral Vera Stone coordinated the planetary defense systems from the main command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens around her showed the status of weapons batteries, shield generators, and energy collectors all across the planet. "Commander Peterson," she called to the ancient engineer, "what's our defensive capability?" Carl Peterson studied his readings. 70% of weapon systems are online. Shield generators are at 50%. But Admiral, that may not be enough. The Devourer fleet is much larger than anything we faced in the ancient wars. Vera's expression remained calm. Then we'll have to be smarter than we were before. Captain Julie Ward piloted her fighter squadron through the outer edge of Earth's defense perimeter. Her ship was one of the newly awakened human vessels, powered by technology that seemed to respond to her thoughts as much as her controls. All fighters, this is Red Leader, she broadcast to her squadron. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every world in the galaxy. Behind her flew a mixed formation of human, Zephyrian, Korthax, and Vecti fighters. The pilots had trained together for only 3 weeks, but their coordination was surprisingly good. It was as if they instinctively understood each other. Red Leader called out Zephyrian pilot Kexavon. My ship's sensors are detecting something strange about the Devourer vessels. They're not just dark ships. They're absorbing light and energy from everything around them. Julie looked at her own sensors and felt a chill. The Devourer ships were like moving holes in space, pulling in starlight and leaving darkness behind them. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Grace Lee monitored the awakening process in hundreds of humans around the world. The approach of the Devourers was triggering rapid genetic changes in the entire human population. Admiral Stone, she reported, we now have over 300 fully awakened humans, and thousands more showing enhanced abilities. But there's something else. The genetic changes are spreading to the Confederation species too. What do you mean? Vera asked. The dormant human DNA in their genetics is activating. Zephyrians are showing improved reaction times. Korthax engineers are solving problems at incredible speeds. It's like the entire galaxy is evolving to fight this threat. Admiral Vera Stone smiled for the first time in days. That was always part of the plan. Ancient humans designed their children to awaken when the galaxy faced its greatest danger. The Devourer fleet reached the outer defense perimeter, and the battle began immediately. The first wave of enemy ships crashed into the Confederation forces like a dark tide. Fleet Admiral Carl Murphy coordinated the defense from his flagship. All ships engage at maximum range. Do not let them get close enough to begin their draining process. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. Human dreadnoughts unleashed energy beams that could cut through asteroids. Zephyrian cruisers fired rapid plasma bursts. Korthax ships used precision targeting to hit enemy weak points. But for every Devourer ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Admiral, reported Commander Steve Parker from the weapons control station, our conventional weapons are barely affecting them. They're absorbing most of our energy attacks. Carl thought quickly. Signal Earth Command. Tell them we need the planetary weapons now. On Earth, Admiral Vera Stone received the message and turned to Commander Peterson. Carl, are the mountain-based energy collectors ready? As ready as they'll ever be? Carl replied. But Admiral, firing the planetary weapons will drain most of Earth's power grid. I'll only get 1 or 2 shots. Then we'd better make them count, Vera said. She opened a communication channel to the entire Confederation fleet. All ships, this is Earth Command. Clear the firing lanes. Planetary weapons engaging in 30 seconds. Around the world, massive crystalline towers that had emerged from major mountain ranges began to glow with blinding light. Energy collectors, built into the Earth's crust, drew power from the planet's core and focused it through the towers. The first planetary weapon fired from Mount Everest, sending a beam of pure energy that stretched across space and struck the center of the Devourer fleet. The beam was so powerful that it destroyed 50 enemy ships in a single blast, but the Devourers adapted quickly. The remaining ships began spreading out and moving in unpredictable patterns, making it impossible for the planetary weapons to target large groups. They're learning, Vera observed. Just like they did in the ancient wars. The battle continued for hours. The Confederation fleet fought bravely, but they were slowly being pushed back toward Earth. The Devourer ships seemed endless, and their ability to absorb energy made them incredibly difficult to destroy. Captain Julie Ward led her fighter squadron in desperate attacks against the larger enemy vessels. Red Squadron, target their engines. If we can stop them from moving, the big ships can finish them off. But as her fighters got closer to the Devourer ships, something terrible happened. The dark vessels began draining energy from the fighters themselves. Several pilots reported their power systems failing. All fighters, pull back, Julie ordered. They're draining our ships directly. On Earth, Dr. Grace Lee made an urgent discovery. Admiral Stone, I'm detecting massive genetic changes in humans worldwide. The proximity to the Devourers is triggering something in our DNA. What kind of something? Vera asked. I'm not sure, but the energy readings from awakened humans are off the charts. It's like they're turning into living power sources. Vera suddenly understood the final protocol. I remember now. Ancient humans built one last defense into their genetics. She activated a worldwide communication system. All awakened humans, this is Admiral Stone. I need you to do something that will seem impossible. I need you to link your consciousness directly to Earth's defense grid. Dr. Frank Moore, who was monitoring the awakening process in New York, responded immediately. Admiral, that could kill them. The human nervous system wasn't designed to interface with planetary scale technology. It was, Vera said quietly. That's what the final genetic sequences do. They turn humans into living computers, capable of controlling massive systems. Around the world, awakened humans began the dangerous process of connecting their minds to Earth's defense network. Dr. Helen Ross in London, engineer Bob Taylor in Tokyo, scientist Mary Clark in Sydney, and hundreds of others linked their consciousness to the planetary systems. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Earth's weapons became incredibly accurate, tracking and destroying Devourer ships with perfect precision. The shield generators created protective barriers that the enemy could not penetrate. Most importantly, the energy collectors began drawing power not just from Earth's core, but from the awakened humans themselves. Commander Steve Parker, now serving as Earth's tactical coordinator, felt his mind expand to encompass the entire solar system. He could see every enemy ship, predict their movements, and coordinate defensive responses at the speed of thought. All ships, he broadcast, his voice now carrying the authority of the planetary defense grid, follow my targeting coordinates. We're going to end this. The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. With awakened humans controlling Earth's defenses and coordinating the Confederation fleet, the tide turned completely. Devourer ships that had seemed invincible were destroyed with surgical precision. The last enemy vessel was eliminated. Just as Earth's sun began to rise over the Pacific Ocean. Fleet, Admiral Carl Murphy surveyed the aftermath from his flagship. The space around Earth was filled with debris from thousands of destroyed ships, but the Confederation fleet had survived. Admiral Stone, he called down to Earth, the immediate threat is over. But what about other Devourer fleets? Are there more of them out there? Admiral Vera Stone, now linked permanently to Earth's defense network, along with hundreds of other awakened humans, answered with knowledge that spanned the galaxy. No more fleets, she said. This was their main force, built up over millions of years. We've broken their power forever. Captain Julie Ward landed her fighter on Earth and immediately sought out Dr. Grace Lee. Grace, what happens to us now? Are we still human? Grace smiled. You're more human than ever. You've become what humans were always meant to be. Protectors of life, guardians of peace. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. The Confederation grew stronger as species worked together more closely than ever before. Humans took their place not as rulers, but as teachers and protectors.